Okay, we finally have T-Mobile fiber available in the building. Ron already got his installed a few days ago. I just had mine installed, so I'm going to tell you guys about my experience, and we'll cover a few other things. Look at the list I made here. We're going to talk about the infrastructure coming into the building, comparing the two. We'll compare equipment, installation, and the speed of each service, the price of each, and finally whether you should switch. So let's start with infrastructure. It is a different type of service. So if you look in the back of the building here in the lower left-hand corner, you can see there's a coax cable coming in, and that goes out to a pole there. And then it does go to an optical digital backbone somewhere out in the street. So this is called fiber to the curb service. And then it just becomes older analog coax cable. Might be digital running across the coax, but that transition causes some issues with latency, as we'll see. All right, so I don't really have an easy way to show you the infrastructure for T-Mobile. I can just tell you that on the front of the building, it's coming in underground, and it goes through a conduit into the electrical room. And then you've probably seen these wires running along the corners of the ceiling here. And it's a little bit thicker than the ones we'll see inside my unit, but these are fiber optic cables, and they're actually multiple strands of glass fiber inside of there. It's got a little cover on it, and you can kind of see aesthetically, you might be able to see a little bit of shininess from it's just glued up there. So it comes in, there are these junction boxes above our doors, and then Ron and I have this extra little splinter coming off where a hole was drilled and comes through here. And so now we have a thinner cable running. I don't know if this is just one strand of glass fiber. You can see the shininess there. They told me you could paint that if you want to. And then this is the one part that shows the most, is where he didn't have a corner to follow, so I think I might paint that. Then you just came along this way, rounded the corner, and then I had him take out, there was a wall plate for the old analog phone system there, so I just had him put that junction box. Nothing's actually coming in that way because obviously the fiber's going up this way. That was just a place to put a junction box on the wall. Then that little yellow wire is just a thin fiber cable that goes into this combined modem and Wi-Fi router. And it does have Ethernet on there if you're like me and you like to plug your TV into Ethernet so it isn't using your Wi-Fi bandwidth, but it probably doesn't really matter. That's what the modem looks like, the modem slash Wi-Fi router looks like. It's in this little carrier or bracket thing. It's just sitting in this bracket, and that can be attached on this side to the wall. They were going to put it like right there next to where the coax was coming in for Spectrum. Ron had him put it on the wall. I just wanted it to be freestanding in case I rearrange things. So that's what the new T-Mobile fiber modem slash router thingy looks like. And here's my old Spectrum equipment. On the left is the Spectrum modem, and on the right is a Wi-Fi router that I bought myself. As we'll see in a minute, Spectrum charges $10 a month for the Wi-Fi router, so you can just buy your own, which maybe will cost you $70, $100, depending on what you get. And then once you've kind of paid that off, thinking of it as $10 a month at a time, it's gravy from then on out. I guess the disadvantage is you end up with two wall warts and two boxes, and then you have this Ethernet cable going between them. Okay, so now let's talk about what everyone's really interested in, and that is speed, or maybe price, but we'll start with speed. So here we have, T-Mobile and Spectrum both want to use their own speed checking services because they claim they don't want somebody else's server to poison the results. I don't know. I just use speedtest.net by Ookla, which has been around for decades. And so we're looking first at our Spectrum speed, which was 573 down, which is quite good because I'm paying for 500. And our upload speed is 23, which is lower predictably just because the cable internet services were always asymmetric. They kind of, you can think of it as they stole from the download speed, they stole from the upload speed to make the download speed faster because they figure, hey, if you're watching content like Netflix or browsing to web pages, most of the time you're downloading stuff instead of uploading it. So now upload speed does matter if you're doing certain things like uploading videos, maybe if you're on a conference call because the video is uploading from you to the internet. But probably what matters the most is the latency, and probably it's this download latency. Let's look at that after we jump over to T-Mobile to compare these download and upload speeds. So we've got 573 down and 23 up on Spectrum, and we have 475 down and 452 up on T-Mobile. So T-Mobile is a symmetric up-down speed. And does it really matter? Well, again, if you're not uploading a lot of stuff like maybe YouTube videos or, high definition conference call, even that, probably 23 megabit per second up is going to be enough for uploading video. That's a pretty intense thing for a conference call. You would only notice it if it was a big YouTube file. It would be significantly faster on T-Mobile fiber. Okay, but what about this other number, this ping or latency? You want that to be low. You want less latency. The round trip of the ping should be lower. So it's 98 with Spectrum, and it's 14 with T-Mobile fiber. So where would that matter? Mostly conference calls. If you've ever been on a conference call, sometimes you will notice people kind of talk over each other, kind of like newscasters over a satellite link because of the delay. So would you notice 98 versus 14? I asked the Google AI and it said you might. It said 50 is probably what you want to shoot for as the highest acceptable for a conference call. So you really want it to be below 50. So maybe you'd notice on a conference call. For gaming, I think you definitely would notice it. For online gaming, you really just want your latency to be absolutely minimum. So if you're a gamer, it's worth switching. If you're on a lot of conference calls, it might be. Speed-wise, probably doesn't matter much, even though the upload speed is going to be significantly slower if you're on Spectrum. Okay, so next issue that one might be concerned with is price. So Spectrum they both have 3 tiers. Spectrum's top tier is 1 gig, their middle tier is 500 megabits per second or a half a gig, and their bottom tier is 100 megabits per second or a tenth of a gig. T-Mobile, it's kind of reversed here, so the top tier is on the right, that's a 2 gig plan, and the middle tier for T-Mobile is 1 gig, and the bottom tier is 500 megabits per second or a half a gig on T-Mobile. I think most people would probably want to go with the 500 megabit internet speed, which is the middle speed on Spectrum, and it's the lowest speed on T-Mobile. So let's compare apples and apples and just stick with that. And let's also ignore initial promotions, just because they both have initial promotions and it makes them hard to compare. So we'll just assume you've had it for a year or whatever it takes to get past your initial promotion rate. So looking at Spectrum for this 500 megabits tier, it is $50 after your promotional period is up. And looking at T-Mobile, you might wonder, is this working the same way? No. The 65 being crossed out refers to not having auto pay as opposed to a promotion. So it's $55 if you set up auto pay, but it needs to be a debit card instead of a credit card. As far as do they have a promotion, I think they might have a $100 promotion, but I forget how that works exactly. And they both have, different schemes for, okay, in the case of Spectrum, if you package cable or cable TV, that is, or mobile phone, then you might get a discount. T-Mobile doesn't have cable TV, so you have to use streaming services with it. And they do, of course, have phone service. And depending on the tier you can get, I think it's $10 off on your internet service based on also having phone service. But I don't think that's available with the bottom 500 megabit service. Okay, so one other thing to talk about here is that with Spectrum, it's $10 extra per month, at least at the 500 megabit tier. It's $10 extra per month to get the wireless Wi-Fi, and with T-Mobile, that's included. So how does this all net out? Okay, so again, comparing apples to apples, the 500 megabit per second plan from Spectrum and T-Mobile. So let's assume we're doing the longer term $50 number for Spectrum and $55 for T-Mobile, assuming we do our debit card auto pay. But we have $10 extra for the Wi-Fi on Spectrum, so that brings us to $60 a month, compared with $55 a month for T-Mobile. Although, if you were to buy your own modem, Spectrum would actually be, your own Wi-Fi router, Spectrum would actually be cheaper because it would be $50 a month versus $55 a month. So that's something to consider. All right, so in the end, should you switch? I would say if you don't mind the aesthetics here or you want to paint over that, you don't mind, it could take an hour or two for the service call. Ron's took longer than mine because they sent the wrong guy at first. And if you care about low latency because you're doing conference calls or you're uploading video, so you actually care about upload speeds, then yeah, I would switch to T-Mobile. If you don't care about any of that stuff, you just want to keep what you have, you don't want the disruption of a new installation, you don't mind having a separate router and modem and paying extra for the router if you don't have one, then just stick with Spectrum. If you're I guess the easiest way to say it is if you're just streaming Netflix or whatever, you're really not going to notice much of a difference, if at all. I would say none would be noticeable between T-Mobile and Spectrum on any of the tier levels, if that's all you're doing. And in fact, I would say, if you're very price sensitive, I would even think about going down to this $30 a month 100 megabit speed, because even if you have multiple HD TVs, you're not going to use up 100 megabits per second. All right, that's all I've got. Maybe you can comment the video, or I'm going to send an email out so you could reply to it if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.